Hey there, welcome back to the Scaling Deep podcast, summer edition. I am your host, Lisa Princik, business strategist and membership expert. And today I want to talk about something that has come up quite frequently in the last couple weeks in conversations with my clients, and a little bit about how I've been approaching social media. Now, this has partially come about because I've been away a lot this summer. I've been working on a really amazing new enrollment system for my membership, which I am so excited about. I know I keep hinting at it. I know but it's been taking a long time to put together, and it's going to be totally worth it. And so I have been really focused on doing big, shifty type things, including going away and being completely offline. And on that note, I've also been pretty much off social media. Now, I don't do a ton on social media anyway. So I have a LinkedIn profile. I have lots of connections. I have a Facebook page, which basically just does what my Instagram does. Just posts whatever I'm posting there at the same time. I have a Facebook group that I engage with a little bit, but it's still small. So I'm not putting a lot in there right now. And I actually save pretty much all of my really good stuff for my actual membership, my paid membership, the Profitable Membership Club. I also have a LinkedIn profile, but I'm not on there very much, but it's there if I need it. And finally, I mentioned Instagram. So Instagram has been the channel that I've posted the most on for the last few years. And that's basically been because about 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, or maybe even 4, I decided I'm going to show up regularly on a channel, commit to it, and post almost every day, or at least 5 days a week for a year. And that was pretty interesting because I did, and that was the thing that everyone was doing. So what were the results of that? Well, actually, I built my profile, I built some connections, and I was consistent. But then, of course, things started to change. Change because all of a sudden stories became a really big thing, and that required a new way of engaging and a new way of getting my head around my content and what I was going to post and how. Now, as someone who is a bit of a deep thinker, I don't find it always very easy just to show up and post something really quick. I mean, I can and I do, but I also really don't consume a lot of that. So I don't really even love being on those platforms. And that is partly who I am and my style, but also that it becomes perpetually difficult to keep up with these platforms. And especially as they keep changing to shorter content and more videos, and then more and more gimmicks, I would say, adding in fun little posty reels, and the way they do them, they all come up with new formats and formulas. And some people might find that really fun and creative, and also adds that performance element into their work. But I don't love that. That's not easy for me and not natural. So this summer, I've basically not been posting anywhere. I think I've posted in the last month on a story once, and maybe in my group twice on Facebook. And I just want to share the results of that, and then also share a little bit more about my conversations with some of my clients about that. The results are quite clear, and here are the actual truth of results. I can only attribute about $2,500 of my revenue this year that I got directly as a result of Instagram. I haven't really added up my Facebook group because most people who come into that group are finding it from my already on my email list, and then they're joining it. So that's not going to be really a revenue generator. It's more of a place to engage, and long-term people who are probably also on my list and perhaps in my group may end up needing my support. And some of them already have, but that's kind of a bit of a wash with my list. So I'm not really counting that as a direct source. And even before this year, I can't really ever say that I have earned a lot from my Instagram, which I put a lot of effort into a few years ago and haven't actually put as much effort into the last couple of years. I've still posted there consistently, just infrequently, and not with all the latest ways of doing it. But it's true. I ask all of my clients how they found out about me. And I've heard very rarely that anyone has found me through a social channel. Okay. Yes, I've sold some workshops on my website from my shop. I've had like those kinds of sales. But when it comes to selling something where it either leads to them being in my membership and we have an actual conversation eventually, so I know how they find me, or whether they hire me for a VIP business design day intensive, I always find out. And it's very rarely that. I've had 4 recent clients actually this summer and the last month that have all come from searching and finding me on Google, but not me, looking for a business strategist and membership expert, getting referred in a group because I've done lots of summits and things like that. And there's a bunch of people who know that I specialize in memberships. And then that person referred me to another person in her membership who hired me. And then there was part of that $2,500. One of those purchases was someone who searched for me on Instagram search for membership expert or coach or whatever. I don't know the exact term, on Instagram, and came across me, as did someone a few months ago for a strategy session. So what that is telling me is that my social is not driving sales, and it's not directly contributing to people making a buying decision. The sales that actually came from people who searched for a membership support on Instagram came through it more like an SEO. So Instagram worked better for me as an SEO, like a place to search that term and find me. They were not previous followers who had been watching me for a while and decided it was time to buy. They actually knew they needed help, and they used it as a search engine, just like someone would in Google. And that's why I really want people to question who is actually finding them and how, the actual buyers, the actual people you're working with, because I think it's a lot less on those types of platforms than we think. And several of my other members just this week, I had private calls with them because they're also working with me privately, mentioned that they really encourage their own members to consider the channels that work better for them, and that social is probably not very high because it requires a certain kind of consistency and engagement and getting the attention and getting the connection and getting the message across that is just difficult for some people in some industries, especially with all the noise out there. And even when people do engage, are they people who are qualified to buy, or are they like friends or business friends who aren't really working on your thing, the same thing that you offered that you could help them with? So this is where, I want to say that even with a membership, any kind of scalable program, you can still grow your program and grow your list, which is a great way to be able to connect with people who eventually buy from you, because then you have their undivided attention or direct access to them when you have something to share. They'll get it in their inbox, whether they read it or not. You know that they can't quite miss it. They may not choose to engage, but at least it's in front of them. That's way more common than getting found and getting a real growth spurt from any kind of social channel. For some people, it's their end all be all, right? We know tons of people who are so good at social. They post all the time. They do fun things. They grow their following. They're in a really fun niche, and they can say bold, or and they happen to be really bold, and they love it. Or they're hiring somebody professionally to do it. which is another option that I'll talk about in a second. And it's really working for them if all those things are in place, or some of those things in the place. It's their personality to share. They have this sort of like they're really fun to follow, or they just have this you get this warm fuzzy feeling when you see something they do or say. And they've just got great things to say. They're different, they're catchy, and they work for a lot of people. Like they're personal things that anyone can relate to. So that does work. And it also can work if you are not that designed to do it, but you can hire somebody out to do it for you. Except for the fact that you are investing a lot for someone to do a good job and actually get attention. So just doing it for the sake of doing it isn't really working anymore. That may have worked years ago, but now, as I said, I have set up my profile. I have content on there, and people can still search and find me. I still have a presence there. I'm still searchable, and they can come across it, get enough of a feel for me, then move along to my website and then decide whether or not I've got something to say of value and they truly feel like they can get support from me. That does work. That is worth having, but whether or not it's worth paying $500, $1,000 a month plus some of your time, because there's still some pieces you need to create to keep it personal, or just spending all your time doing it to try to actually grow your audience, I don't think it's the best way. So it makes sense if you love it, if it's your personality, if it's a real rare opportunity in your niche, or if you've already started getting loads of traction and you've got the investment money to spend on growing a channel professionally, doing a little bit of it yourself, like adding your own personal content. Even if you've got an agency working for you to help you, you could still have to provide some stuff to them, but they're giving you ideas of what to do, and they're doing the bulk of the work and doing, a lot of the heavy lifting. That might be worth it at that level when you really need to kind of expand and scale, because everything else is in place. Your sales is working really well like clockwork. Your system, you trust it. You love your positioning. You kind of know who you're for and why they need help with you. And the people who are inside your membership or in any program are very grateful and love sharing it and give you great testimonials. That's when it's time to add that next level. But in the meantime, here's what you can do. Set up your SEO on your website. I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars I've earned over the years from people finding me on Google and being like, wow, nobody offers this. I want some personal attention. This isn't going to break the bank, and I can get my stuff figured out easily. Or you've got a membership that's open for enrollment that isn't just a small, tiny, price point that just is more of a forum. It's really, really amazing when people come across and they're like, I haven't found anyone like you who's offering anything quite like this, and they're eager to buy. That is entirely worth setting up your website with a few SEO terms that people are searching for, and then keeping your site active by posting maybe a blog post or a video once a month just to keep the content fresh. Google loves that. And then having great copy, which I believe in 100%, because that's what really gets people in through the door, because they are like, you're talking to me, our values are aligned. I am so excited to meet you. Okay, that's one. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, just create search terms. Just create your profiles on some of these platforms. If it's just Instagram and LinkedIn, and it's just, you've got the terms in there, so if people need support in your area, they can find you. This is not, and then sure, you might want to, if you don't have any posts, you might want to have some posts there, but I wouldn't spend the amount that it takes of time and energy to get to that high level of effectiveness here first. So just have it set up. And then finally, start getting in front of others' audiences. That is the easiest, the fastest, the cheapest, and the most effortless way to get connected to people who are glad that they've met you, who feel like they already know you because they've they've seen you somewhere, they've heard you speak, they've seen you present, they get a little bit about feel for you, what you're like personally, and also just what you know. And they are the kind of people who will jump on your list a little warmer than, say, somebody completely cold, and take action because they're excited. And that is a great tool that I didn't do for a very long time. And yes, there's been a few things that I've had in place that have made it easier for me. Now I get asked more repetitively, like more consistently. But here's how I did it. First things first, I actually did my own summit. Now, not everyone has to do their own summit or their own event. It's a big effort. However, when I created my own first summit, it was fairly successful. I got invited onto another really great summit, one that really did a lot for me. And then after that, it just kind of like snowballed, and I got invited on more and more things. I also have a few workshops that I created, and they are turned into products in my shop, and they are like a small fee associated with them. And that made it easy for me to get extra traction from summits, because I could always contribute to the VIP pass, where people would upgrade for the extra thing that upgrade their pass during the summit, and I would be part of that gift. So then they would join my list, not only for the freebie that I was offering, but for the extra level, where they actually got to consume something from me. And then bundles, which I didn't even know what bundles were before this year. I'm not the first person to try every tactic, and I tend to ignore the noise a little bit. And I've been on a couple of bundles this year that have grown my list by hundreds and hundreds of people, like hundreds, maybe close to 1,000. And that is amazing traction. That is amazing growth. That is an easier way to build a list than a social channel, because that was my creating either a half an hour presentation, which is actually really fun for me for a summit, or just contributing my workshop to a bundle package in a distinct area, because as a membership expert, I'm doing something that's different than a lot of other people. So they either are interested in that or not. So it's easy for them to decide whether or not they want that information, that kind of topic as a contribution to their event. And so that has also made it easy, is that distinctiveness for me to then get in front of other people's audiences. And just as it's fairly easy for people to decide if I'd be a great fit for their podcast. And also it makes it easy for me to decide which podcasts to pitch, because I can very easily vet, have they had anyone on this recently? And is their audience interested in this kind of thing? So that's where I think we can do a lot more, a lot easier and a lot more naturally than hustling on the socials, is getting those, setting up for getting those direct sales. Like, everyone loves an awesome client. And I've had some amazing ones in the last month, which has just been such a bonus, coming into my world and then joining my membership club, which isn't open to anyone else other than those people. And then secondly, doing that audience sharing so that you can build up your list of warm followers and then be able to share all your wisdom with them over time. So I hope this has kind of taken some of the pressure off of all what you feel. I love spending time with my members. And a couple of my members are actually like along the same lines with what they teach in their memberships, is like how to track and measure what is working, and also just like how to get focused on doing what's really important in your business, and ignoring all that should haves, must haves, and I think I need to be doing this, but you don't really need to. So if you are interested, head on over to my website, get on the wait list, scalingdeep.com/club. It'll pop you on over to the Profitable Membership Club wait list. I have some great training coming up in a few weeks, which I can't wait to share with you. And that will be your next opportunity to get inside the club, where I can give you all the guidance you need to develop not only your evergreen membership enrollment system and all the other foundations to it, but also to really get clear on what visibility you should be focusing on to get the most value and return for your time and effort. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.